My name is Leo Jasso, and I will be doing George Berkeley. George Berkeley was a bishop. He was known as Bishop Berkeley. He was an Anglo-Irish philosopher. He was born in 1685 in Kilkenny, Ireland, and he died in 1753 in Oxford, England. He's known as one of the most important philosophers of the 18th century. He advocated a theory called immaterialism, and it just denies all material objects and instead states that we perceive objects. So that this scissor isn't really there. We just know, we see it in our mind, but it's not physically there. He published an essay in 1709 called An Essay Toward a New Theory of Vision, and again published a treatise concerning the principles of human knowledge in 1710, which was I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's based off of the one that he published in 1709.
Okay, go ahead and pause it. Alexis, you paying attention, ma'am?
Yeah.
Berkeley believed that your brain puts everything into a smooth flowing picture. And an example of that is God created a ball in one spot, he moved it slightly, and then took it away and put it in another, and we perceive fluid motion. He uses subjective realism. It's just that things only exist in the mind and physical features do not. The form of idealism presented by Berkeley is subjective because it does not deny the reality of the object. Rather, it states that the reality is dependent completely on the mind of the people who prove it.
Who perceive it.
Or perceive it. And...
Okay, so pause it.
Yeah. Went too far. Okay, so just because something's subjective does not mean physical world. Okay, wait. So... just that, but it does not mean the physical world isn't real. Things are just as real in Berkeley's philosophy as they are in common sense. Just because something only exists in the mind does not make it any less real.
So Anthony still exists. He's not subjectively, though.
So objectively,
he does,
but not subjectively. We don't hear, we don't perceive him, we don't hear him. But you're right, feelings are subjective.
Okay, so Dr. Samuel Johnson tried to disprove his theory, by kicking a rock. But all that proved was that he didn't understand Berkeley's theory, or thesis. And he just hurt his foot. And Masté argument says that mind-independent objects do not exist because it is impossible to conclude them, or in simple terms, it means that everything can only exist in the mind.
So when you touch your table, are you touching the table, or are you touching the way your fingertips tell you the table is?
fingertips tell you. Because like if your fingertips were burned, you'd be that's what they're different.
Right. If you have callus.
If you didn't have
So each one of us is perceiving the world in a different way?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But we can also say like this table was cold, and so we can sheet it.
Right,
That's
but
you
the
perceiving.
degrees are different in terms of how we perceive. A good example of this is that stupid picture that my wife shows me about the pink Nike shoes that are really
yeah, I know which one.
turquoise. To me, or the dress, the black blue dress that is, she
Gold
says
and
is gold. Ah, yeah, Berkeley comes and bites you in the butt here. Because to me, they're black. You know, I need to answer this.
Do you want me to pause it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just an example of how to tell something's real. We failed to find a tree that exists solely in the mind, and there's no good reason to believe that they exist outside the mind. So try to imagine a tree, or just a tree that you've never seen before. You can't. because it doesn't exist. It works with anything. Your mind cannot think of something that does not exist in the physical world. And then, now I'm guessing you're thinking, how do I tell if something's real? Common sense. Dreaming anything, common sense. So you can tell that, again, this pair of scissors is real because I can touch it, I can do all this stuff with it, and it has realistic qualities. If it's not real, it has dream-like qualities. It's irregular and has chaotic behavior. Berkeley also distinguished things that we can conjure up in our imaginations from real things by their lack of vividness, and also by the fact that they can be brought into existence by an act of will. So if you can think, if you can bring up in front of yourself something like money, then it's not real. Sensible things cannot exist independent of perception. Nothing exists in the mind. Nothing exists in the mind, but it's the way you perceive it. We only perceive ordinary objects, so we need to conclude that ordinary objects are ideas. Berkeley says that there are only two elements, spirits and ideas. Ideas can be perceived, which I already explained, and spirits cannot be perceived, but are a collection of one's own feelings and reflection. And then, so what happens when no one can perceive something? God perceives it. So Berkeley says God perceives them, and so it allows them to continue to exist. The book, this is a direct quote to the book. Sensible things do not depend on the perception of humans and exist independently of them. Berkeley wrote, there must be some other mind wherein they exist. This other mind, according to Berkeley, is God.
So when Anthony left to the bathroom and we did not perceive him, he didn't disappear from existence because God perceives, God's consciousness still perceives the world. So you're okay, Anthony. You didn't lose existence. So y'all got that? There's a grand perceiver, a big perceiver. So if you wipe out all people in the universe, there's still God who sees the universe, but it's still dependent on perception. Okay?